Hey everyone, so today is a pretty monumental day in my recovery, so I took some time to write out some of my thoughts, and I'm going to read them to you right now. So, 6 months, half a year. It seems like an eternity, yet like it was just yesterday. The fateful day, July 23rd, 2021, at 5:30 a.m., when I walked into Advocate Masonic Hospital here in Chicago to report for my life-saving osteomyelitis surgery. Nothing could have prepared me for the journey that was to come. I can still remember the anxiety and fear as I put on my hospital gown, and they began to prep me for surgery. What was it going to be like on the other side of the knife? How much dead bone and tissue were they going to remove? What will my body and life be like post-surgery? Some of the many questions I had 6 months ago have been answered. Some of them have not, and some will never be. One thing is certain, I've come a long way in half a year, yet I still have a long way to go. I remember waking up in the recovery room in a daze, hopped up on over 15 different types of drugs and yet still in excruciating pain. I laid there asking when I'd be able to see my loved ones with tears in my eyes. After about an hour of waiting and slowly regaining more awareness, one of the first of many traumatic experiences occurred. Irrigation of my wound by my wound vacuum. Suddenly I hear a pump sound coming from this new and foreign device. My anxiety heightened. After about 10 seconds, an excruciating pain beyond what I had ever felt before started, and my blood-curdling screams ensued, and the heightened pain lasted for at least 10 minutes. It felt like my chest was exploding, on fire, and being constantly stabbed. Large amounts of fluids were being pumped into my fresh wound to clean it. I was unaware that this was going to happen, and it happened every 2 hours for the next day. To the few loved ones in my life, my mom, Jack, and Stephen, who were unlucky enough to witness one or more of those irrigating moments, thank you. Thank you for holding me, crying with me, letting me nearly break your hands from squeezing them so tight, and for your love. The times when you couldn't be there were some of the worst moments I had in the hospital. The first question I asked my mom when I saw her after surgery was, "What did Dr. Gwen say?" My mom, with a tear in her eye, responded, "It was all much worse than we thought." As I began to cry, I found out that there were far more than the original 4 abscesses, and that much more than just my right SC joint had to be removed. All in all, they removed 19 abscesses, my entire right SC joint, over an inch of my clavicle, parts of 2 ribs, and surrounding tissue approximately 16 by 10 by 5 centimeters in size. At this point, I still hadn't seen what the surgery area looked like since I had been bedridden. The first thing I did when I got my cell phone in hand was flip to selfie mode, examine my new body, and cry. On my 3rd day in the hospital, I experienced my first of many wound vacuum changes. No amount of meds could help me at that moment. I winced in pain as Dr. Gwen removed the tube and sponge while looking up into the camera, documenting this experience with tears in my eyes. To this day, a picture Jack took of this very moment is one of my favorite pictures of me. Why? Because of the immense amount of emotion in my eyes. Every time I see it, I instantly feel some of the same emotions I was experiencing when the picture was taken. It captures what it was like then and what it has been throughout a lot of my recovery. The fear, pain, anxiety, stress, and a multitude of other emotions. As difficult as those moments from my first several days in the hospital were, I tried hard not to let them kill my spirit. I was determined to fight. You never know how strong you are until fighting for your life is your only option. By day 5, I was no longer at a fall risk and was allowed and encouraged to get up and do short walks as much as possible. Little did my nurses know just how hard I was going to push myself. I remember slowly walking around the unit with all my tubes and devices, challenging myself to go one more lap, even though I was weak and lightheaded. Just one more. You can do it. I kept reminding myself of the many things in my life I'd already overcome. Giving up was not an option. There was a sign on the wall which showed how many laps equaled a mile or a specific distance to a Chicago landmark. On my first unsupervised walk, I pushed myself to a 1/4 mile. Later that day, I did another 1/4 mile, and that night, a 1/2 mile. I even did some bodyweight squats in and out of my hospital chair that evening. Even at that time, I was adamant that this major surgery wasn't going to ruin my life. I was making the conscious choice to allow this experience to mold me into a stronger and more internally beautiful person. On day 6, the nurses' ward looked at me like I was crazy as I continued to slowly circle the unit over and over again. I was determined to hit a mile, about the distance from my hospital to Lake Michigan. I was setting small goals that would push me, but not break me. I had to have something to strive for, otherwise I wouldn't want to continue. Lap after lap, I slowly gained more confidence until I hit my mile mark. Proud of myself for this small accomplishment, I returned to my hospital bed to rest. I share a few moments from this particular part of my journey because it makes me realize how many painful experiences I've made it through and how many huge triumphs I've had along the way. There are an overwhelming amount of other moments I could talk about from throughout this experience. But at 6 months post-surgery, this is what resonated with me the most. My week in the hospital will always be one of the most defining moments of my life. It was and still is a massive test of strength, resilience, character, compassion, and more. There are so many lessons in these experiences. Many of these lessons I'm still painfully learning, while doing my best to approach them with grace and compassion. There's honestly so much to process from all that I've been through over the past half year. I'm sure I'll continue to process, learn, and grow from these experiences for the rest of my life. 6 months ago, I wasn't sure I'd survive, but here I am. I've made it through the agonizing experiences in the hospital. I've been through numerous wound vacuum changes, alarms, and emergencies. I've pushed myself through pain and tears in my therapy and exercises in order to set myself up for the best possible long-term success with my body. I've overcome massive chronic myofascial pain syndrome flare-ups along the way. I've made it through a scare that osteomyelitis might be back, and so much more. And somehow, I've been surviving. I've had so many humbling experiences throughout this journey. The biggest one has been asking for help in various ways countless times. I've had loved ones bathe me, clothe me, change my wounds, dressings, drive me to appointments, cook for me, wash and cut my hair, perform different healing modalities on me, and so much more. I'm forever grateful for the continued love and support of so many people. I'm positive that I would not be able to survive the past 6 months without all of you and without all the things I've been through in my life, which has given me the strength and resilience to fight. The physical, mental, and spiritual toll this journey has taken on me is immense. However, I'm confident that I will continue to rebuild myself and my life for the better. As I said in the beginning of this long, arduous battle, I'm going to use these experiences to help and inspire others. Without turning these difficulties into positive change, I wouldn't see the purpose of suffering through them. In that, I found gratitude. There are still many unknowns related to my long-term recovery in life. I'm proud to say that I've shocked my doctors and nurses with where I'm at and what I'm capable of doing. There were no other cases to really compare mine to, so I decided to set the bar high. After all, I'm a high jumper. I'm determined to prove that even with massive differences in my body, I can still live an active life and get back to playing the sports I love. I'll just have to do them differently and without some bones in a joint. In a lot of ways, I'm still struggling. Each day presents itself with numerous battles. Some of them I win, some of them I lose, some are draws. And that's okay. I'm showing up and I'm doing the best I can. I'm trying to find peace within the struggle. One of the biggest lessons I've learned throughout my life is that every rough season has a purpose. Choose to see it as preparation rather than punishment. I'm preparing to change the world in bigger ways than I ever could before this dark chapter. Thank you all for following along my journey and for the continued love and support. I couldn't do it without you. Much love.